I got a face, I'm making photographs. I tell jokes, they know to laugh. I used to hop up on a plane to where the pizza got a fold in half. No Brooklyn, my white manager had to hold the cab. I'm on an upward trend, it depends how you hold the graph. If the plane going down, I'ma blow it back. Man, and I know it dad. I've been throwing all night, hope she throw it back. I pray for vision, I pray for wisdom, I pray for weapons against the system. I pray for freedom to free the victims, to heal the brain, no pain inflict them. I pray for real, I pray for real. I talk to God, then wait for real. Can't fake the fun, can't fake the feel. I pray for fun, I pray for real. I pray for y'all. I pray for y'all. When I hadn't been on TV and I hadn't seen the CG, yeah, they using every movie, everything ain't always PG. Sometimes it get kinda creepy when you looking out the window, you the one holding the squeegee. Who the one that's gonna clean up all of this mess? Big ball in distress. You gon' say his name one day, I wish you all the best. I give y'all a guess, answer every test. All I did was rest, I promise he did all the rest. I pray for vision, I pray for wisdom, I pray for weapons against the system. I pray for freedom to free the victims, to heal the brain, no pain inflict them. I pray for real, I pray for real. I talk to God, then wait for real. Can't fake the fun, can't fake the feel. I pray for fun, I pray for real. I pray for y'all. I pray for y'all.
I pray for good days, I pray for bad days. I ask for blessings, he sent them that way. I pray for dumb things, I wanted a bad cave. I pray for myself, but I'm not that brave. So I pray for the good days, I pray for the bad days. I pray for my report card, like stay away bad grades. Go away bad vibes, I pray for my classmates. I pray that when they walk in, it won't be their last day. I had to write this knowing I ain't talked to God in a minute. Feeling depressed, trying to live up to this positive image. When in reality, everything develops from the negatives. Lord, give me strength, not to smack all these
I pray for vision, I pray for wisdom, I pray for weapons against the system. I pray for freedom to free the victims, to heal the brain, no pain inflict them. I pray for real, I pray for real. I talk to God, then wait for real. Can't fake the fun, can't fake the feel. I pray for fun, I pray for real. I pray for y'all. I pray for y'all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to CYA, Confessions of a Young Adult. I'm your main host, Cedric Carter, and I have my co-host,
Elijah Peterson.
We are here today. Just wanted to be brief with you all, just to give y'all some of our thoughts and some of our passions about what's going on in today's day and time. And one thing we want to do is always be honest and truthful with everything that we bring forth to the table, and making sure that we're bringing honest information, that we aren't just up here saying anything to you all. Before we get on to with everything we have for today's show, I always want to remind y'all that the scripture for this show is Matthew 7:12. So unto everything, do unto others as you would have others do unto you, for this sums up the law of the prophets. And with that, that's just always, if you want to be treated right, make sure you treat someone else right. And if you want respect, make sure you always give respect. And with that, we're going to get right into our first topic with Eli, the co-host. And I just want to ask you, with everything that we're seeing in the world with social media, you know, the news outlets with CNN, ABC, Fox, everything that's going on, how do you feel like, you know, that has an impact on you and your family and just those that are around you?
Oh, wow. Well, everything that we're seeing right now, man, I don't think it's been too different from the past. It's just being displayed in a different way with all the cameras and social media.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything is more hyped than what it used to be. But affecting me personally, I would say, me being in the black community, I think we need to shift our focus from just the white community to the people that are in charge, as far as the sheriffs, our presidents,
Mm-hmm.
councils, judges. I don't think the problem lies in racism itself. I think the problem is the people who are in power.
Mm-hmm.
As we've been having this problem for years, man, and I just think we need to address the problem that is the problem,
Yeah.
and not look at just the color. Because I've had bad experiences with white cops, black cops,
Yeah.
all types of cops. It's just cops in general. And with that said, sir, when you see a cop get behind you, are you looking at the skin color first, or are you automatically nervous just because it's a cop?
Yeah, just more so just it being a cop. Not that I've done anything wrong or anything like that. I'm very attentive, so I'm always aware of my like surroundings. So anytime I see a cop, like my antennas just like go off. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like something that has been installed in us subconsciously. I don't know if it was done on purpose or you know what I mean, but it's one of those things where if you're in the school zone or wherever you're driving, if you see a cop or you think one is going to be in this area or whatever, your antennas automatically go up just to slow down or something like that, just out of fear or, you know, just in today's time, you never know what can happen. So if one does come up to you or you get stopped by a police officer, you don't, you know, act out of control or whatever. You try to just stay level-headed. So it's like, in a sense, a preparation period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, and to add on to what you were saying, I think another thing that needs to be drawn out is the importance of structure, regardless if it's within the church, not just with the church, but I think most definitely it comes with our families.
Yes.
What's being taught in the homes, not only in the homes, but in the schools. And, you know, in the black community, we have a lot of separation between fathers and mothers. So you have a lot of single-parent household, regardless if it's the mother or the father that has main custody of the children. We have a lot of that. And then not only with just that, there's a lot of miscommunication and hatred and vitriol that goes on between parents. And then when you add that into everything, it like spews out in the streets when you go to school or just wherever you're at in a public standpoint. It all has a way of making its way out, and then we express ourselves emotionally because we don't know how to be emotionally responsible or how to respond to certain things and stuff like that. And with that, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the Breonna Taylor law. And, you know, we have the Breonna Taylor law, we have the ban of the chokeholds, the state mayor and city council officials pleading to dismantle police departments and or cut funding and everything. How do you feel about those things?
Oh, with those leashes, man. We talking about the leashes that they put on kids, right? The little dog leashes.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know why
But that was
ever
back in
became
what?
a thing, man.
I was back in what? The early thousands?
I don't know what's wrong with these parents putting these dog leashes on their children, man. You should know better. You should know better. My mom always taught me when I go to Walmart, if you leave by her side, you're going to get left behind. And I guarantee you, she almost left me behind.
Hey, you know the main one, boy, that grocery cart better not hit the back of my heel either.
Exactly. But we can move on to the defunding police part of it. So I want you to explain to them what defunding actually means.
Defunding, well, for me, the actual defunding is just cutting the funding down on what's important and what's not important. As far as, I feel like they don't put enough into mental issues or mental stability within the funding. Another thing is, why is so much money being spent on just police officers when their sole right is to protect the neighborhoods and this and that, when I believe they get hundreds of millions every year that goes just strictly on the police department, when we have schools struggling, when we have, you know, streets struggling, just everywhere, you know, everywhere you go, especially predominantly in the black neighborhood. I think defunding the police is a good thing, but I just don't want us to be extravagant with it to where we go overboard, because there is a purpose and a need for police, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of gray areas that's in that defunding, but it all can be handled the right way if we can learn to remove our emotions and get down to the nitty-gritty of what's really going on and the issues within the police department.
For sure. And defunding means well, like he said, taking a portion of the money out of police department and putting it into other workers like social workers and people like that, counselors. And for me, I'm not so sure about that because you're basically saying let's not send police officers out to drug addicts or people who are suffering from depression and stuff like that. But what if one of those people has a gun or has a weapon? Then how is a social worker supposed to defend themselves against someone who's not in their right mind?
That's a great point. Defunding don't mean we about to take away their guns, though. They ain't finna lose all their safety equipment and stuff like that. I think it's more so just, all the extravagant technology that they have all comes from taxpayers and stuff like that. Then they receive so much money, whereas, like, it can be used in other areas that can maybe limit the crime rates and stuff like that in other areas. As if social workers have more funding going towards to them, then it's all like a trickle-down effect. Instead of one big pot of money mainly being put at the top, then everybody else gets the sprinkles of whatever's left of the big piece of cake. You know what I mean? But I think it's one of those things where each issue has to be isolated because each one has a different, substance and circumstance to each one because not everyone means the same thing. When you have the SWAT team, then you have the regular police officers, and then you have the special forces, stuff like that, which they all have a significant impact within the police department. I just think we have to be careful and make sure we don't go overboard because we do need police officers. Because if we didn't have police at all, it could get real crazy out here. Almost what was the movie? The Purge. It could almost be something like that where if people know there isn't a consequence of being caught or something like that, then crime rates will really go. I mean, it's already sky high now with police officers. Just imagine what it would be if there were completely no police officers or anything like that. And do you have any more thoughts on the defunding?
I think we covered that.
So how do you feel about the new Breonna Taylor law? May she rest in peace, and we're praying for the family as well. That law basically is the banning in Louisville, Kentucky, of no-knock warrants, where you basically have to knock before you go into a household. You can't just bust into a household. If I'm not mistaken, if I read that correctly, that's what the Breonna Taylor law is. How do you feel about that?
The no-knock warrants. That's fair, but at the same time, like you said, it also leaves leeway. Now, if you come into my house and you knock on the door and you let me know I'm finna get arrested, I'm finna run. I'm not sitting there and opening the door for you, Mr. Officer. I'm sorry, but you had to find me later.
I feel you on that.
So I'm all for it. It also goes with the abuse of power. I feel like that innocent until proven guilty, we don't live by that. If we did, we wouldn't lock people up without having the evidence that they should be in jail. I've heard numerous cases of people sitting in jail for 20 years with no evidence, no court date against them being guilty. So I don't see how we live by innocent until proven guilty if we're not following it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think it's dependent on who we're dealing with. If you're just going to get someone who has warrants or, you know what I mean? I feel like it's all isolated events that can be controlled in a sense, but unfortunately in her circumstance, I don't believe she had any crime against her, or they went to the wrong house and then now she's dead. Wow. And now you leave a situation to where, it's so much chaos. We're already protesting from the George Floyd situation. And then we've had so many counts with the Eric Garner, the Breonna Taylor, the George Floyd now. The most recent Rashad, what's his last name? Rashad, is it Brooks or Taylor? I can't remember his name, but that was most recent with it all. And it's almost one of those things where what's warranted and like what causes death? You know what I mean? Especially when you're in those situations. I want to know, are police officers trained to kill or are they just trained to shoot? Because there's a difference between being trained to shoot and then being trained to kill. Because I feel like any situation is automatically death. It's shoot for the heart or shoot for the head.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I feel like it's a dangerous job, but it's one of those things like you chose this profession.
You knew what you were signing up for.
You need to be emotionally responsible enough and mature enough to know that like everyone isn't meant to die. Just shoot them in the leg, do something instead of just going for the the heart or whatever. And it's one of those things where it's very traumatizing. I've never seen someone die and literally in front of my face, but now it's like one of those things where like we could see it all the time.
Yeah,
with social media, and it's almost it's traumatizing for me because I have a son. Then if I'm in any situation, like I don't know if I would want my son to ever see me, like God forbid, get killed by a cop or whatever, especially if I didn't do anything, or even just in any circumstance. I don't think that's the media is just crazy right now. I could go on and on about that, but we have a comment from Pastor. How often do we call SWAT? Is it a waste? That fund can be cut in half and support social workers. How often do we call SWAT? I would think not that much. I would think SWAT is one of those
That's more of I feel like SWAT should only be used in a very dramatic situation.
Yes.
To where you have to shut down the block, shut down the neighborhood, or something like that.
And to have that means we dealing with like huge drug dealers or something
Somebody
like
on
that.
the block with a shotgun or something like that.
Yeah.
That's when you call SWAT. We not calling SWAT for
House
Jimmy
arrest
up the street.
No, for real, because it's like I've seen situations just driving through Dallas where like SWAT is at someone's house, and I'm trying to figure like, dang, what did that person do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Full bulletproof vest, everything.
Yeah,
And
like they about to
it's
go
not
to war
necessary.
with these people or whatever. But I can't answer how often do they call. I don't think it's a waste. It's a waste if we use it for the wrong reasons continuously over and over. But if it's used for the right reasons, then it's not a waste. But it seems like we've used it for the wrong reasons. I can't speak eloquently about that because I'm not informed that much. But just off of some of the things I've read, I can say that in certain circumstances, we have used it in the wrong way and in a way we don't need it to be. And to answer the second portion of it, I'll let you answer that about the support of social workers, for it to be cut in half and support social workers.
Okay, for the social workers, it depends. If the social workers are actually doing their jobs and not there just to collect a check for a say. Because we have a lot of social workers out there who are not doing their jobs. And I feel like a big fund of that money goes towards SWAT because it's more of a immediate fix, if you would say.
Immediate response.
Versus social workers is going to take some time. And America ain't that patient.
Yeah.
To be spending money on somebody who essentially doesn't want to change. You have to force them to change.
Yeah.
And so I could see why they were giving more money to SWAT, but do I think it's right? No.
I can agree with that. And I mean, another thing as well, I think the police is in a horrible situation right now. You got good cops, then you got bad cops. I was watching the Dave Chappelle stand-up. It was his most recent one. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he was basically referencing how there was a cop that he felt like his fellow officer used enforcement when it wasn't needed, so he filed a complaint, did it the right way, and all those things, went to the head honcho and did everything the legal way, and then basically nothing happened. If I'm not mistaken, that guy lost his job, all those things. So the guy decided to go on basically a killing spree. He went driving up to cop cars and killed a couple cops. I believe in one of the stories that he went to one of the cops' house and actually killed the cop's daughter.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very traumatic scene.
Wow.
So of course he's now most wanted at this point because he's on a killing spree. And then sometime after, they end up finding him. The whole SWAT, everybody, basically found him. and they basically tomato can. They killed him, and he looked horrible. But the main point that Dave Chappelle was trying to show within that is that just how police officers felt like they had to protect their fellow police officers that were killed. It's the same thing as the Black Lives Matter movement. Not that all lives don't matter, because of course all lives matter. But right now we're focusing on the black lives that are being innocently killed in unharmful situations by police officers. And it's one of those things. I think it was a great point he made, because not a lot of people really focus on the intent and like what's really going on. Like, I had a friend of mine send me a video of a homeless guy. Now the backstory is that supposedly this homeless guy had a gun and he was waving it around. But when the police officers got there, he was laying by a bench. I think it was like by the bus bench or whatever. And he was sleeping. I guess he was sleeping. When they got to him, you know, they had the guns drawn at him and everything. And like, he woke up, you know, he was aggressive with the, not as far as physically, but his mannerisms and his tone. And I believe he used the F word and went back at the cops. But the cops told the guy to, you know, keep your hands high, don't bring them down, and to move or whatever. So the guy ended up getting up and then sitting on the bench. But at this time, the guy still doesn't have a gun in his hand or anything like that. And then the end result is the guy ends up being shot dead, and multiple officers shooting their assault rifles at this guy. So, like, in situations like that,
that's that immediate fix I was talking about. I feel like some of these police officers are just killing the homeless just to get rid of them. Have no rightful reason just to kill them. They just want to get rid of them.
So let me ask you this, because I feel like this is one of the things that's not really being talked about. Do you feel it is responsible for black people to feel like, why do we have white officers in predominant black neighborhoods? Why don't we just have black officers in predominant black neighborhoods? Do you feel like that as a way that could help everything that's going on?
I wouldn't say black officers in black neighborhoods or white officers in white neighborhoods. I would say assign that officer to their own neighborhood, whether they white, black, Mexican.
Where they live,
wherever,
or
where they live. Where they lay their head. They not gonna be acting a fool where they live at. I promise you. They go into neighborhoods. They don't have no idea what's going on over there. So they already scared in their mind.
Yeah.
And that's just causing them to go crazy. They don't know what they're walking into. But if you put them in a situation that they're familiar with, I feel like we will have a better reaction of these officers.
And we have another comment. We have one from Amber. It says, the problem is how police are trained, period. How do you feel about the training of police officers?
I wouldn't say training. I think we need to dig deeper into these police officers' backgrounds. All that license to carry stuff, all the background checks that we have to go through, they should be able to go through those same stimulations. I'm not talking about going to a shooting range, teaching them how to shoot, teaching them what to shoot, when to shoot, and why to shoot.
So do you think it's inappropriate to, when we see the end result in some videos, do you think it's inappropriate to want answers on why this person was killed, or why is it that in a snap of a finger your automatic instinct is to shoot to kill, instead of like the situation I was telling you about with the homeless guy? The guy obviously didn't have anything in his hand. Now, he was wrong for getting up, because the cops told him don't get up, to keep your hands high, but he sat on the bench, and still at that time he still had nothing in his hands. Do you feel like officers are just automatically shoot to kill? And do you think that's something that could be trained on, or is that just like, even if you give training, that's just someone's, you know, their reasoning to kill someone because they know they can get away with it? Or how do you feel about all that? Because you could really go a lot of ways with it. And not
I'm gonna
just
start off
with
by
that
saying this. I don't believe every officer should have a gun. every officer shouldn't have weapons at their dispense because not every officer can handle it. You don't have to have a gun to be a police officer. There's plenty of security guards, plenty of all types of officers who do their job without guns. So if we eliminate some of the guns from people who aren't, for say, trained to have these guns, like the beginners who are still in training, they shouldn't have a gun. They boss got a gun. We don't need 3 guns. We only need 1. So when you have multiple guns drawn at one person, yeah, we're going to panic. And that's why they're shooting, because we panicking. But if I have 5 guns pointed at my head, of course I'm going to panic.
Yeah. Do you think, so, God forbid you're ever in this situation, but put yourself in that situation.
Oh, I have been.
So, okay, so now that we know this, breaking news, since you've been in this situation, how did you feel in the snap of a finger? You said you panicked, but how did, that rush feel? How did it all come to you? Because I'm sure in an instant like that, you feel like death is flashing right before your eyes.
Yeah. I did feel like I was going to die that night. This was actually about 3 years ago in Mesquite at that. And we all know Mesquite ain't the place to get pulled over. But, yeah, I had guns drawn at me, and I panicked, but my mom always taught me to never move, never make any sudden movements. So I kind of just played that back in my mind, not to make any sudden movements. And eventually I came out fine. I'm still here today. And they let me go. I feel like they only let me go because the way I was acting, or
You didn't give him no
they felt bad. They felt prioritized to let me go. But
Yeah.
I won't name any names, but I do got the officer badge number.
So do you feel like it was a racial thing, or was it just a wrong?
No, they were white, black. It was a mix of them.
So-
I just think it was the abuse of power. They felt they had the power over me, and they were going to abuse it.
If you don't mind me asking, were you speeding or anything like that, or was it
No,
just?
it was me and a group of friends. We were at the park.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say what we were doing, but yeah, we were just at the park. Just chilling. Doing
And,
what teenagers do.
and they approached y'all, and then they had guns drawn, and then how did your friends respond to it? Have you ever had that conversation with them?
No, those friends I'm not friends with because they kind of threw me under the bus a little bit. And so I'm not friends with those guys anymore. They kind of probably made it worse for me because they were all pointing the finger at him,
Yeah. So we have one more comment that we're going to get to from Bree Green. It says, it is definitely training. Cosmetologists have more extensive training than police officers in many jurisdictions. That's actually...
Yeah, that's facts.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if that is the case, that is a very powerful, way to look at it, because I feel like police officers don't get enough training. We have it updated. Also, due to the shortage in officers in Dallas, for example, the need for officers is extremely high, so they kind of overlook many qualifications to fill positions.
Shortage.
So she's basically saying because of the need, they overlook a lot of things. So basically anybody can, not anybody, of course there's still certain things you have to overcome, but basically anybody can get the position because it's a back order and things have to get done. Do you think that's one thing that creates another issue?
Well, those officers that you rapidly hire, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If you rapidly hire officers, don't give them a gun. You don't know what their mindset like. If you just hiring them without doing an extensive background check, do not give these officers a gun until they prove to you that they can handle a gun.
So what would be a situation to where you feel like, okay, they've proved they can handle a gun or anything like that? Is that within the training or, simulated circumstances or something like that? How do you think that can be, proven, like, okay, someone is ready to handle a gun and to be put in a cop car, then patrol the streets, and then deal with day-to-day circumstances?
You just said it. Shoot them off in levels. Don't send new officers out to life-threatening situations. Send them to the low-level calls, like someone broke into my house or something that's simple. Don't send them to a drug bust or something that they gonna have to use a gun.
Yeah.
Send them to something that they got to make a simple arrest, a simple loud disturbance or something like that.
But everything is kind of like simultaneous though. Like you can have a regular traffic stop, and then you can be dealing with a maniac that's just losing his way that day or
Mhm.
whatever. So it's like that's why I say everything is like an isolated event. And we're about to get ready. I don't want to go too deep into that. We're about to get ready and go into our next topic. Let them know what we're about to get into.
We're about to get into spill the beans, man. We're going to talk. You can either confess something that's on your mind, something that's bothered you this week. It could be the Black Lives Matter that's going on. Maybe you got something to say about what's going on, or maybe it's a relationship problem you're going through, or a question that you may have for me or my brother said. Just drop it in the comments, and once this break is over, we will answer those questions for you.
Alrighty.
Got a message for you. Say it.
You are the one that takes me, guides me, orders my footsteps Monday through Friday, dominion, power, guidance, judge, jury, captain, pilot, light to my fire, all the things you did, even though you weren't here, what I wanna give to dance with you again.
If you love somebody, put your
If you love somebody, put your hands up.
put 'em.
Put your hands up.
Put 'em.
Put your hands up.
Whoever
If
loves
you love somebody, put your hands up. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. God is love. God is love. God is love. God is love. He is love.
That's what we said he is. That's what he said he is.
He's good. His mercy endurance. Blessed assurance. Love and purest. He's real. I know I can prove it.
Because he said he would. I said he said he would. Tell him what he is.
Are the one that
Come on,
takes me,
leads me.
guides me,
Orders my
orders my
footsteps.
footsteps Monday through Friday,
Dominion. Power. Come on. Judge.
jury,
Yes, he is. Come on.
captain,
Pilot. Light to
light to
my fire. Come on and say it.
all the things you did, even though you were
Family said.
All right, and welcome back to Confessions of a Young Adult. Now, before we get into our spill the beans, I'm going to address this topic. This comment we have from Joyce McKinley, Sister McKinley, I should say. Assigning officers in their own neighborhood may be a way to go. Possibly may cause them to think twice. And I definitely agree with that, because you send me to my own neighborhood, I know mostly all my neighbors.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be quick to want to arrest them or shoot them or any of that, because I know their background, I know their story, I know they have kids. So yeah, that's why I say assigning them to their own neighborhood would be a good solution. Now, there's still some kinks you're going to have to work out for sure, but I think that would slow down the officers killing innocents very quickly.
I agree with that. We have one more comment. Amelia Jones, hopefully I said that right. How do you feel about people of any race that donate to black businesses out of pity or to hush up activists? Me personally, and that's a slippery slope.
Yeah. it
I do
is.
know for sure a lot of it is to hush up activists. I think those are dangerous people as well, because anyone that wants to quiet someone for wanting change and to want to do right, those are some scary people, because if they believe that they can give you money to either hush up, be quiet, or whatever, then their mind can go into any place to make you feel like you have to do something else. As far as the people of race that donate to black businesses out of pity, in some cases it can be out of pity, you know, but I feel like just from my own judgment and people that I know, they've given out of the kindness of their hearts to Black Lives Matter, but even to other predominantly black charities and stuff like that. So it's really almost like a personal experience. As long as the people you know that's addressing things the right way, and doing it out of the kindness of the heart, and not just the, well, let me give to these black people, or let me do this and that, because those are the ones that we really, really need to, keep an eye on and make sure that we stay intact and engaged with those people, because those who aren't saying something right now, and those who aren't really, addressing the topics and stuff like that, those are the ones that we really need to be pressing, towards, because now we really know like how you feel, and you like the privilege that you have, you like this and that, and you don't really want change because you feel like in a sense you have to share your society and your reality in the way you're able to get things.
Before we move on to the next comment, I want to kind of touch on that. I want to say, whether it's out of pity or if it's just pure sorrow, I say take that money and run with it. Because, to be honest, they owe us. All that labor we did back in the day, we deserve that money. I don't care if they feel right about it or they don't feel right about it. We gonna take that money and we gonna build.
No, I agree.
Hey, I don't want to say just hush up and take the white man money, but hey, sister, take that money.
I wouldn't say don't hush up, but if you're gonna give me something and I'm gonna take it, that don't mean I'm gonna stop crying. Now I might act like it for a second, but that don't mean I can still change the narrative and this and that and do what it is I'm supposed to do. But some people do it with contract, obligations that they can't do, and then that's the part to where like you find yourself in a dangerous situation. And one more, it says, I think that there are some people who want to donate because they are against what's happening. I agree wholeheartedly, 1,000%. There are some white people that love their white privilege, and it's unfortunate. And I've noticed one thing with that, it's a lot of white people that's within the church that love their white privilege.
Yeah.
There's a lot of huge white pastors. Joel Osteen, I don't think I've heard him say anything. I did hear about something that he potentially was protesting, but I feel like that would have been all over the media if that was the case. He hasn't said anything. What's her name? Paula White. I don't think she has said anything. So these predominant big white pastors really haven't said anything. So it makes me question, what is it that you really feel? Are you scared to lose your money because your endorsements, your TV contracts, or do you really even care what's going on, type of thing? But
Well, I feel like, before I talk, I want to shout out Maxie Taylor from Mesquite Friendship. I don't want to shout you out too much because you ain't joined our show yet, but yeah, one of these days you got to come be a guest. But go ahead and read this comment from her.
Continuation of it, but they feel uncomfortable. If they donate, is wrong. If they protest, is wrong. They want to understand what they should do too. What should people outside of black communities do to support? For me, it's simple. Be genuine. Whatever you do, be genuine. If you ain't gonna be genuine, then don't do it at all. If you just gonna give just to give, we still gonna take it.
Yeah.
But like, at least have purpose behind why you want to understand, why you giving your money. Or even if you're not giving your money, just using your voice and the people that you know, or just being active out in the streets and getting onto your white friends who are against you doing that thing, whatever it is you feel that is right. I feel like more white people are starting to show that like their friends are racist or they love their white privilege, and I feel like with that, it allows us to get to, a better place.
What should people outside the black community do to support? That's a tough question because before I can get on any community, I have to get on the black community. It all starts within. We can't expect for other communities to change if we're not willing to make that change ourselves. There's so many black athletes out there with the pedestal to make a change, and they're not doing anything. They're just saying words. Obviously, we need the money, put money into your neighborhoods. That's why I'm a fan of LeBron, because LeBron put money back into his neighborhood. LeBron
Yes,
James
sir.
all day. Jordan, where you at, man?
Actually,
We ain't
Actually,
heard
we
nothing
can't
from
get on Jordan
I ain't
because
heard nothing from Jordan, man.
Jordan gave 100 million, if I'm not mistaken. He gave 100 million to the Black Lives Matters, and he actually, because Jordan used to be criticized for not, quote unquote, in a way, standing up for black people and taking just a political route on things, but he actually did donate 100 million, and he has said he's going to use his voice and power to hopefully bring change on to everything. And I don't want us to focus too much on the comments. I feel like we've answered enough, but I want us to get into the spill the beans before we get into our next topic. Do you have any
Nah, I'm gonna let you.
beans?
Let's pop off the spill the beans with you, man.
For me, one thing that's really affecting me right now is.
It's our spill the beans bag. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So I'll take the beans. One thing that's really bothering me right now is I've noticed that people don't know how to love. Regardless if it's just relationships or within like self-love. I'm noticing a lot of people have a lot of self-hatred towards themselves, and then with that it causes that self-hatred to go towards others. I've noticed that with people I've come in contact with through conversation, and just if you look on social media, you see a lot of self-hate. They try to show a different side of themselves that's not really them, so it's basically a front, and all that is just a bunch of insecurities and stuff like that. So one thing that's really, really bothering me is the lack of love that people refuse to show. But I understand at the same time, some people have gone through very traumatic, circumstances and situations as they were brought up as a child, some being in single, father or mother households, some just going through some crazy things, just being at the wrong place at the wrong time, or sometimes at the right place at the wrong time, you know what I mean? But one thing that I can say that I just wish people would just show love. I don't think people understand the power of love. I was raised on love, so I see things differently. I respond to things differently. Now, if you make me mad or you piss me off, I don't know if that's the right word to say, then you're going to see another side of me.
Yeah.
But I can say 99% of the time, like, I try to show as much love as I can. And I wish people would just learn love, understand what it is. The Bible speaks on love. Love is humble, love is patient, love is, kind. And with those things, like, I don't think people understand just the power of love because so much hate has been spewed through social media, through media outlets in general. So I wish more people would just learn what love is for yourself so you can learn to give it to other people.
I want to pick up on that love thing, man. I think our generation is so lost in love because of, like you said, television, movies. We could have the perfect love partner, but we're too busy comparing it to a Hollywood movie that ain't real. And so we looking for that next Titanic love when that type of love really don't exist. Love is a struggle. It's not supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to struggle with your partner. That's just going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, we need to understand that love is not supposed to be perfect. And once we get that understanding, I think we'll be all right. We do have a Spill the Beans comment from Amelia Jones. Before I do my Spill the Beans, I want you to read her Spill
I've
the
had
Beans.
to check my own thoughts sometimes and make sure I don't lump a group of people into one stereotype. Confections. I love the honesty and truthfulness because a lot of times in a split second, we can be very judgmental. We can be very harsh, and that's everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a pastor. I don't care if you're a young adult or whatever. Just because of how our minds, in a sense, have been trained throughout time. That is one thing. Like if I see a bunch of white dudes in cowboy hats and boots, like there's an automatic stereotype that comes with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if someone sees a group of black guys together, like there's an automatic stereotype that comes with that. So I appreciate that confession, Amelia Jones. And now I'm gonna pass it back to you.
Okay. Most of my beans are about issues or doubts I had about God. For this Spill the Beans segment, My problem with Jesus, for say, with
With
lack of a
Jesus.
better word,
That boy got issues, boy. Oh,
is
no.
I said for lack of a better word,
What
is
is
I don't like the way he handles evil on this planet. See, for me, when I see a racist,
I know it is.
a rapist, they getting struck down immediately. But for me, it's like there's no levels, and we need levels. You saying a guy like me, I can be holy all my life, and then there's this guy next to me who's been a mass murderer or whatever, and we both on the same level? There's no way I'm going into heaven, he going into heaven with the same level. That don't make sense to me. I feel like he should be held accountable for what he did.
At that
And
moment,
there's no way he's making it. That's just me personally. Now, I know God's mind he's more forgiving than us. That's why he is who he is. But that forgiving? To where he looking at us the same when we really not the same?
Okay, so let me ask you this. How far do you want to go with it? Do we want God to intervene into the earthly realm every single time we do something? Because yes, every sin is, some sins of course are greater than just a normal sin. Lying on if I stole a Skittle ain't the same as a pedophile.
No,
That's,
yeah, for
you know
sure.
what I mean? Or
But
doing
that
something like that.
to my point though is, once we go to Judgment Day, we either making it or we not. So to a certain extent, we are on the same level.
Okay, so let me ask you this: Do you think it's possible that we can do everything as right as we can?
No.
And still, off of a few mistakes, not make it into heaven?
That's tough. Based off what I've learned, as long as we accept Jesus as our Lord and Savior,
Amen.
there is nothing we can do to be cast down to hell. Absolutely nothing.
So, with what you said, I'm challenging what you said. So, do you think it's one of those things, like say God intervenes, you know, in the earthly realm, and we don't know of a situation, but a pedophile or a rapist or whatever is in the middle of an act, God comes down. So, are we wanting just Jesus himself to come down, or are we wanting the angels? Are we wanting Malachi? Do we want these angels all to come down with them? Or is it, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, because everything, there's so many people in this world. So is he just covering the United States? Is he covering Jerusalem? Is he covering China? Like, how, because I really want to know now. I'm intrigued with what you said. Like, which way, like, what would be for you comforting that, okay, Jesus handled this the right way? This is what I really want to know.
See, I never thought about it like that, because truly there is no right way. Now, if we just didn't give people the chance to correct their mistakes, which is basically what I'm saying, God shouldn't allow people to create their mistakes, because essentially that's just a mistake in their life, and they do have the chance to turn their life around. But when you're doing something to that extent, man, I would strike you down that second. I'm sorry, you don't get no second chance.
No, I it's not that I don't agree with you. It's just we have to be careful, because like there's so many things that's happening within like a split second.
That's true.
And it's like, okay, when is he coming down? And when is it a soft judgment? When is it a harsh judgment? So though a pedophile is a lot more dangerous than a liar or whatever, so should God come down if someone is cheating on their wife? Should God come down if I'm stealing money from my mom? Should God come down if I'm robbing a bank? Like, what circumstances is comforting for you to feel like, all right, this is worthy. Like, God, all right, come down. This is worthy of you coming down right now. What is the situation?
To where you,
because I feel like you're focusing on the extreme. What is one that can just, like,
that's a good question.
is it, on what base are we handling this on? An extreme base or what?
It has to be to the point where you take I don't want to say a perfect human being, but a human being who's on the right path, and make them do a complete 360 to where they don't have the faith to get back on the right track or even have the will to get back on the right track. Now, from that point on, this human or whatever who made you do that 360, I'm looking at them as the devil, you know? And to me, the devil don't get no second chances.
Sure don't. So, okay. So I saw one of the comments. It said he gives. I think the name is. I'm guessing this is the YouTube name, but Alma Mac, a pastor. He gives space for forgiveness for all sins. We all make mistakes.
That's true.
I feel like God knows what's a mistake and what's on purpose. If I purposely go to your house, I would never do something like this, but this is just an example. If I purposely go to your house knowing I'm going to rape you, that's not a mistake. That's purpose. That's almost like, what is it, premeditated murder? Like, I know I'm about to do this. If it's a mistake, as far as I just responded out of the inability to be emotionally responsible, then that's a different thing. Now, but the extreme stuff, I'm all with the pedophiles, the rapists, the killers, all that. I'm with all that. But I feel like we have to be careful to where if we're going to ask God for that, what do we, because enough is never enough for us. We're human, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can have all the money in the world, but we're going to want so much more. And I feel like that was I didn't think the Spill the Beans would cover a whole, what's his name? But I'm actually glad it did because it allowed us to, free flow and show our emotions and stuff like that about certain topics and stuff like that. And one thing I want to tell y'all, be sure to DM us on our Instagram and on our Facebook and YouTube channel questions that y'all have or about a topic or anything like that, regardless if Spill the Beans is just about going to be on every single show. So if you got some beans you want to spill, like, send them to us. We'll give y'all, we'll allow you to have that moment, and we'll just respond off whatever beans you're spilling to us or whatever topics y'all would like us to address or y'all feel like we aren't giving enough time to. Give us those feedback because it's only going to help us in the end so we can help grow together. Don't forget the main golden rule, doing to others as you would have others doing to you. For this sums up the law of the prophets, and that is Matthew 7:12. May you all have a blessed Tuesday and be safe throughout the week. Peace and love.
Jokes, they know
Do
the
say,
laugh.
do say.
I used to hop up on a plane where the pizza got a fold in half. No Brooklyn, my white manager had to hold the cab. I'm on an upward trend, it depends how you hold the graph. If the plane going down, I'ma blow it back. Man, and I know it dad. I've been throwing all night, hope she
I
throw
pray
it
for
back.
vision, I pray for wisdom, I pray for weapons against the system.